Our scripture reading is from John, chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. Listen to these words of scripture, and in them, the Spirit's word to you. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now, draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Holy wisdom, holy word, thanks be to God.
Good morning. We're going to start by reading an excerpt from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. She is a scientist, a mother, a professor, and also a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation. And this is her version of the story of Sky Woman. In the beginning, there was Sky World. She fell like a maple seed, pirouetting on an autumn breeze. A column of light streamed from a hole in Sky World, marking her path where only darkness had been before. It took her a long time to fall. In fear, or maybe hope, she clutched a bundle tightly in her hand. Hurtling downward, she saw only dark water below. But in that emptiness, there were many eyes gazing up at the sudden shaft of light. They saw there a small object, a mere dust mote in the beam. As it grew closer, they could see that it was a woman, arms outstretched, long black hair billowing behind as she spiraled toward them. The geese nodded at one another and rose together from the water in a wave of goose music. She felt the beat of their wings as they flew beneath to break her fall. Far from the only home she'd ever known, she caught her breath at the warm embrace of soft feathers as they gently carried her downward. And so it began. The geese could not hold the woman above the water for much longer, so they called a council to decide what to do. Resting on their wings, she saw them all gather. Loons, otters, swans, beavers, fish of all kinds. A great turtle floated in their midst and offered his back for her to rest upon. Gratefully, she stepped from the goose wings onto the dome of his shell. The others understood that she needed land for her home and discussed how they might serve her need. The deep divers among them had heard of mud at the bottom of the water and agreed to go find some. Loon dove first, but the distance was too far, and after a long while he surfaced with nothing to show for his efforts. One by one, the other animals offered to help. otter, beaver, sturgeon. But the depth, the darkness, and the pressures were too great for even the strongest of swimmers. They returned gasping for air with their heads ringing. Some did not return at all. Soon, only little muskrat was left, the weakest diver of all. He volunteered to go while the others looked on doubtfully. His small legs flailed as he worked his way downward, and he was gone a very long time. They waited and waited for him to return, fearing the worst for their relative. And before long, a stream of bubbles rose with the small, limp body of the muskrat. He had given his life to aid this helpless human. But then the others noticed that his paw was tightly clenched, and when they opened it, there was a small handful of mud. Turtle said, "Here, put it on my back. I will hold it." Sky Woman bent and spread the mud with her hands across the shell of the turtle. Moved by the extraordinary gifts of the animals, she sang in thanksgiving and then began to dance, her feet caressing the earth. The land grew and grew as she danced her thanks, from the dab of mud on the turtle's back until the whole earth was made. Not by Sky Woman alone, but from the alchemy of all the animals' gifts, coupled with her deep gratitude. Together, they formed what we know today as Turtle Island, our home. Like any good guest, Sky Woman had not come empty-handed. The bundle was still clutched in her hand. When she toppled from the hole in the sky world, she had reached out to grab onto the tree of life that grew there. In her grasp were branches, fruits and seeds, and all kinds of plants. These she scattered onto the new ground and carefully tended each one until the whole world turned from brown to green. Sunlight streamed through the hole from Sky World, allowing the seeds to flourish. Wild grasses, flowers, trees, and medicines spread everywhere. And now that the animals, too, had plenty to eat, many came to live with her on Turtle Island. One of the many things I love about the story of Sky Woman is that collaboration is built into the story of creation. Everyone works together, and together they create a better world, a world that works for everyone. John's story about the wedding at Cana is another revealing along our Epiphany journey. Jesus' mother, Mary, is there, along with Jesus and his newly called disciples. After a while, Mary comes up to Jesus, elbows his ribs. "They have no wine." It is easy for me to think of Mary stereotypically here, a mom who is trying to look out for everyone, wants everyone to have a good time, and she notices the party is on its last legs. The wine has run out. Disastrous. How embarrassing. You invite people over for a feast, for a party, and you run out of wine? I'm with Mary on this one. What is a celebration without wine? But it is not just that there is no wine. Wine was a staple beverage in the ancient Near East. It was consumed either full strength or sometimes diluted with water. Wine made the water drinkable. So potentially, if there is no wine, there might not be anything else here to drink. Some scholars have noted that it was customary for guests to bring something to contribute. You are not supposed to come empty-handed. You bring a lei, some pupus, some wine, and yet they have no wine. Are these people just here to mooch? Did they only bring a secret stash for themselves? What is this? They have no wine. There is not enough. Not enough. An all too common statement, then and now. There is not enough money. There is not enough food. There is not enough housing. There is not enough water. There is not enough. Debbie Thomas has said that Mary's role is one of naming a need. Mary is naming a reality that is impacting everyone. Whatever the reason, all is not as it could be or ought to be. So Mary instigates, telling her son, "They have no wine. The people are not okay. There's nothing to drink." Jesus responds, "Ma, do I look like the party planner to you? Did you plan this party? Leave it alone." But Mary is undeterred. She tells the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." I can almost see Jesus' body language as she does this. He's somewhat obligated now, right? He could do nothing. He could leave it alone. I like to think that the named need ate at Jesus a little bit. He chooses to do something, and the servers join in. The steward knows nothing of what has happened behind the scenes and makes a statement to the groom. "You exceeded expectations. You saved the best wine for last, and there are at least 20 or 30 gallons of it. There is enough for all." Somewhere between Jesus telling the servers to fill up some jars and the steward tasting the water becomes wine. Somewhere between Mary's instigation and Jesus' yes. Somewhere between disastrous scarcity and sacred scheming, abundance is revealed as the true state of things. The wedding at Cana is not so much about how water mysteriously becomes wine. The wedding at Cana is the revelation that where there is sacred scheming, sacred collaboration, there is always enough. There is enough money, housing, food, resources. Scarcity is not the reality of the world in which we live. The true state of the world is abundance. Unfortunately, our society functions on the lie of scarcity. We are forced into this artificial balance between there is not enough and enough is never enough. We need sacred schemers, instigators bent on toppling the lie of scarcity, to push for the restructuring of resources in a country that is among the wealthiest in the world. The wealthiest in the world, but cannot seem to find enough for its poor, its tired, its hungry, huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Can't find enough for education or healthcare. Can't find enough when we absolutely have enough. I recently watched the Disney film Encanto. I'm afraid I'm going to spoil it for you a little bit, but it's for a good reason, so I hope you will forgive me. Encanto tells the story about La Familia Madrigal, who has been gifted a miracle. And this miracle is in the form of extraordinary gifts. Some can see the future. Some are very young. Some are very strong. Some are very strong. Some can heal. As new generations are born and gifted with different abilities, the gifts become the most important thing. One member of the family observes this, Mirabel. She sees that the pressure of the gifts and the pressure to live up to the miracle is overwhelming. She sees that this is not working for everyone. It's not really working for anyone. The family bond is weakening. The miracle is weakening. Mirabel tries and tries to get the family to talk about it, to acknowledge it, to do something about it. But they are either indifferent or angry with her for even bringing it up. The family's current way of life begins to crumble around them, and all of Mirabel's efforts have hastened the crumbling of the world as they know it. The family is forced to face reality. The miracle is over. The gifts are gone. La Familia Madrigal is left with only La Familia and Mirabel, the one who ruined it all. As they begin to rebuild, as they begin to work together, as other families come to help them, the family is finally able to get what Mirabel has been trying to tell them. They had been so caught up in the individual gifts, so caught up in their own reality, that they forgot the true reality. The real gift is each other. The real miracle is La Familia, working together for a world that works for everyone.